DSPN, the Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
Blah, 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 blah. Miles Davis joins us every Wednesday just to talk about all kinds of sport. I can see that jersey you're wearing at the moment. Is that claret and blue?
There you go, mate. It's the replica tracksuit top from the 1980 Cup final, which was quite a long time ago. But we were the last second division side to win the FA Cup. So
back in the day when the FA Cup was a major European football prize, not just English football.
Very much so. But European football has basically destroyed it. Well, maybe not European football, because we had European football then, but the hunt for money, players want to go. I mean, we got relegated. I think this was 1980. We got promoted the next season. But Trevor Brooke, in England International, stayed with us for 3 years in the second division. And he would have been on 400 quid a week.
That's right.
So it was a different time. It was better to be a fan then. The football was better. The pitches were absolutely awful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the drive for money, and they're still trying to do it now, aren't they, mate? I mean, we want to talk about the World Cup. 48 teams.
Yeah,
I mean, Gianni Infantino, as if they're not lining their pockets with all those brown envelopes of the intolerable pressure.
You're accusing FIFA of being a little untoward in terms of that.
Mate, it is so obvious. I mean, how did Qatar get the World Cup?
Well, I mean, we all know that.
The geezer that headed their thing got done for corruption.
Yeah, no.
So, and your mate Chuck Blazer, and our mate Jeffrey Webb from the Cayman Islands.
That's right. Yeah, they were charged as well, weren't they? Oh, I mean, and this of course leads into the All Whites qualifiers, and take nothing away from the fact that we smacked 8 goals past Vanuatu and 8 past Samoa, but I kind of feel a little uneasy about the whole thing. I feel uneasy because when we qualified in 1982, that was epic. That was never meant to happen. A 24-team World Cup, New Zealand, what we had to do to get there. This is the easiest qualification path ever. Okay, great. It's great for New Zealand football, but how much is it doing for those island nations getting pants like that?
Well, you'd like to think that what it'll do, hopefully there'll be more investment there. But and they've got some great little players out there. I was over in the Solomons in 2012 at the Oceania Nations Cup, and there were some really good players individually, but they need investment. But hopefully the qualifiers here in Oceania will become like the pinnacle for them to try and get through, just the way that the New Zealand, the All Whites did in 82 and again in 2010. That will be their thing, saying, look, if only we can just do this,
get to the
then
playoffs,
we can get in there. Yeah. And I mean, don't forget what Fiji made it through, didn't they? Was it Fiji or Tahiti?
Tahiti
made it through the Confederations Cup. So, it could happen. It could happen. But soon it'll be 96 teams and 2 teams from Oceania. The best thing is, though, and I've been thinking about it, I think it's a load of cobblers. I think it devalues the World Cup, just like the Champions League has been devalued. But what I'd say is that for all those nations that are now going to qualify that wouldn't have qualified before, there's going to be extra excitement for them.
Yeah, that's
it. Also means more money, unfortunately, for FIFA. But, I mean, are you really anti it, or is it just the devaluing?
Well, I mean, 48 years, I think getting through to the World Cup's got to be an achievement in itself. Well, that's what it always was. But, that was then, this is now. It's all changed. We can talk about it. Nothing's going to change as much as we want it to. We'll turn it, but that clock back, it's not going to do squat all difference, is it? Autumn International Rugby, mate, are you enjoying these, apart from the fact that your mob has lost 3 in a row at home for the first time since whoever last took stats?
Yeah, I've got to say I have.
The rugby's been great.
I particularly enjoyed France beating your rebel, but it's been fantastic. Actually, been really, really enjoyable. Tight games. A lot of them really close.
Yeah.
And you talk about England losing 3 on the trot, but I mean, if you look at it, they hit the post against your lot. That would have meant you'd have only won 1 of 3 of the main ones on your tour so far. So that would have put a bigger damper on yours.
Absolutely.
Australia, that magnificent try in the last seconds of the game to win that one, that could have been 2 wins.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There. So it's a matter. It really is a matter of inches at the moment, and I've really enjoyed it. I don't think Borthwick's the man for the job, and I've said that before.
Yeah, many times.
But I think there's a lot of promise in that England side. There's some really good players, both in the forwards and in the backs. And I think the All Blacks as well. I mean, what do you think? What would you give them as a, if you're the headmaster.
Okay, and we've been talking about this, a lot during the podcast today. There was an article and stuff saying that the All Blacks finished with a respectable 10-4 record. I'll never, ever say it's respectable when we lose 4 matches in a year. But, there are qualifiers with that. But I'd give us a B, leaning maybe towards a B plus on the back of winning, especially that test against Ireland. And look, the margin's 1 point against France and, a couple of decisions, a couple of different chances, all of that kind of stuff. Look, if we'd won all of those 3, I'd be very happy with the way the year ended. The Argentinian test apart, losing to South Africa twice over there is no disgrace in any international rugby terms, is it? But I think that we're improving. I just don't know how much better we are than we were last year. So, because last year we lost twice to South Africa and to France as well. We've done the same thing this year, Miles.
Well, if you look at since the Argentina loss, the way that they've turned it around.
Yeah, since then, yeah, right.
Overall, I'd probably give it a C plus. I wouldn't be as generous as you. But since then, I'd give it a B maybe, because Razor was getting written off left, right, and centre. I think there's been quite a few changes in personnel. Key changes, which we've spoken about before. So it takes a bit of time to replace that. And, when you lose superstars going away or people that are so pivotal to your play, like the likes of Moanga or Whitelock, it does take a bit of time to replace them.
Of course, world-class
players. And also, don't forget, New Zealand do it on the smell of an oily rag, relatively, when you look at the money that's up there. And the game's far more competitive because that money's come into it. So, I think you can get rid of the days where you win 50 tests in a row.
Yeah, well, I never want to get rid of those days, because those are the days, aren't they? Hey, as far as the Grand Slam goes...
And you've got the audacity to say that the Pommy rugby fans are arrogant.
The Grand Slam, and I'm all on the Aussie train on this, they've won 2, they've got 2 to go. Does the Grand Slam mean as much now as it used to? Go back to 78 and Murray's team. Look, as a fan, that was as good as it was in rugby. There was no World Cup at that stage. But winning those 4 internationals away from home, it's still to carry quite a lot of significance, doesn't it?
Oh, very much. I can remember watching those, and I was living over there. I remember watching those, and it was a fantastic effort. For the All Blacks, they've done it so many times since. So I don't think it's that much of a. Not that you get to play all the sides, to be perfectly honest. When you go over there now, you'll get 2, maybe 3 of them, but you won't get the whole mob. But for Australia, it'll be huge. Massive, and I want them to do it.
Yeah, I do.
Not because I'm anti the jocks necessarily, but I really like Joe Schmidt. I think he's a really decent, down to earth bloke, and I wish him all the success. And I think Australian, especially in this part of the world, you need Australian rugby to step up a little bit, because it gets a bit boring, just rolling over them, 99 times out of 100.
Got a couple of other names to throw at you, Alan Jones and David Coote. Alan Jones in quite a pickle at the moment, isn't it? And this isn't a news story. If I remember rightly, these allegations came up before. We've got to be careful how we tread and step with this. It's pretty damn ugly.
You don't have to be dread. There's so many allegations against him. Seriously, my mum would have said his eyes are too close together. There's something dodgy
Mother
about
knows
it.
best, mate. Mother knows best.
Remember, it must be. I can't even remember if it was when I was living here or over there, but it's that long ago that there was, he was actually at his collar felt. No charges were pressed against him. But this is what happens. You look at the likes of Rolf Harris, Cosby, Saville, all these guys.
Mate.
Yeah. But they all get away.
Diddy. They've got away with it for years, mate.
Ronnie
Epstein.
Briley, all these guys, mate, get away with it. Hey, he hasn't been convicted yet. But this, for him to do his usual, and well, I can bring up my brother, won't mind. He was really badly abused by a very well-known celebrity in the UK. And the guy does the thing, blaming all these kids. There's about 15 of them that fronted up. And this is what Jones will be doing now, who just say they're liars, I've never done anything. But the guy's got a lot of power. He's a bully. I don't doubt for 1 second that he's been at it. As for David Coote, I'd love your thoughts on this. But I think it's much ado about nothing. Can you imagine if we taped every Premier League
I hate him. I just hate it. Yeah,
after a game, and they were just chatting to a mate, what they would be saying about the referee.
Well, this is the point, and that's the best and biggest point about the lot. Stop filming it. If you're going to have a conversation, stop filming it, because that's where the trouble starts. You can have that conversation, you can have it behind closed doors, you can have it wherever you like, but just don't film it and don't post it, you knob. Whoever was the guy that did it.
You know, and if you're going to kick a cat, make sure your brother doesn't film it and put it online. Kurt Zuma.
Finally, I love this story about Ian Holloway, and he's a guy that has managed several Premier League clubs. He's ended up at Swindon. They got a terrible record at home. They're losing, and he's come up with a novel solution, which is?
Yeah, he's going to... It's the training ground, they reckon, is really haunted, and that's what he's put their bad form down to. But what he's saying now is this. He's going to get his missus, and I don't know what her qualifications are, but he's going to get his missus.
Well, she like that Eileen, who used to be the
Eileen Drury,
Glenn Hoddles. That's
spiritual guy,
faith healer. That's
I don't know, but anyway, so she's gonna go and try and cleanse the ground. I'm going to watch the results.
Yeah, but the results with interest now.
But the thing about Ian Holloway is I'm so glad he's back in the game, because he is one of the most. He's a quote machine, one of the most entertaining. And if anyone out there wants to have a look, just look him up on YouTube and see it. My favourite was the one. Do you remember when he went, well, that result, wasn't the best result we've ever had. But it's like if you go out on the pool at night and you take a bird home, it's not the best looking bird, but it's still a result. Not that I do that, though, because I've got a lovely wife. And
Look him up on YouTube. Ian Holloway used to be the Blackpool manager when they were in the Premier League.
And Plymouth, I think, as well, and a few others.
DSPN.